All right, guys, welcome back. We are watching Koyomimonogatari episode 6, Koyomi Tree. Last time was a Nautico episode where we talked about wind, rumors, popcorn, a whole bunch of stuff. The darkness, the void, the vacuum, that kind of idea. It was a good one. It was a good one. This time we're talking about trees, and it appears we will be talking about Karen. What is a tree? Well, Araragi's a tree. Um, that's well established, right? In that sense, of course, Karen is also a tree. Right? What I mean by that, obviously, is like the thing with the names, right? There's the tree comparison, like Kaiki's name meaning like dead tree or whatever, and then like Aragi, part of his name means tree, right? The gi at the end, I believe. Um, I don't know. We've made the comparison with trees with Araragi many times, right? The tree at the cram school. Um, we get shots of trees all the time. That's like related to Araragi, right? So an episode called Koyomi Tree is very interesting, especially when it involves. It involves Karen, who she as a character, in my mind, is so related to obviously she's literally related to Araragi, right? Like Kiyomi, because she's a sister, but they're very similar in a lot of ways in terms of like the feeling of like justice and humanity and all that stuff, you know? So I don't know. I'm interested to see where that will lead us. So as always, we are reading the chapter one because it wasn't adapted in the anime for a god knows why reason. All of these chapter ones have been so good and meaningful and important. It's crazy to me that they were not adapted in the anime. But we're going to read the chapter one and then we'll watch the episode. There's no question that the path Karen Araragi treads, the path of karate, is a steep and severe one. But for a slacker like myself, the very idea of having such a clear path laid out before me is enviable. If it were anyone but my little sister, I would be eyeing her jealously. Since it's my little sister, however, I just avert my eyes awkwardly. Nevertheless, I'd be lying if I said I never tried to imagine just what it would feel like, what it would be like, to walk unfalteringly down a ramrod straight, one-way street, a highway even, laid out before me with no twists or turns, no need for a map. No map for life. To know I was striding down the right road, both feet firmly on the ground, proceeding step by steady step every day. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and on a journey of 100 miles, 90 miles is only halfway. In a world where darkness is always one step ahead of you, it's an untold blessing just to be able to see the path you travel down, even if it's a path without an end. Darkness, the darkness. For her, there's no such thing. I said I'd be jealous for anyone but my little sister, but by the same token, if it weren't my little sister, I might fall in love with that level of humanity. And yet, the kind of life she lives always comes with a disclaimer. Precisely because her path is so clearly laid out before her. Think how shocking it would be to lose sight of it. I can't help envisioning that horrible eventuality as well. I've asked her, if you were in a situation where you had to give up karate, what would you do? A situation where she had to give it up. A situation where she had to give up. Where she had to leave that path, that highway down which she walks. I really wasn't scheming to upset my sister by bringing up this statistically improbable, exceptional eventuality. I'm not such a mean person. I was only trying to show my concern for her by mulling over my misgivings about a real possibility. And it is a very real possibility. When you train morning, noon, and night in a combat sport like karate, there's always the possibility of sustaining a grievous, career ending injury, or the love of your life might implore you to give up such a dangerous activity. Maybe you end in a position where you have to focus all of your attention on your studies. However clear the road before you, however well maintained and spectacular, there's always the chance of mechanical trouble, with the engine or the electrical system. There's potential trouble everywhere. However bright the path, however dazzlingly the sun shines down upon it, that doesn't mean the future is bright. The darkness isn't only ahead, it can only be inside. It can also be inside, sorry, no kidding, no kidding. If you stalled out on your path, what would you do? You find yourself in a pickle sooner or later. But Karen's unruffled, confident response was simply, You're wrong, big brother, because wherever I drop is the finish line. Getting to the point where I can't walk any further is the goal. To walk until you drop without ever stalling out. In other words, she expressed a fierce determination to forge ahead until she fell. That's a crazy one, huh? That is a crazy chapter one right there. All this stuff about the darkness and humanity and Karen and the darkness being inside, like no kidding, right? I feel so justified in the way I was thinking about the darkness after Monogatari. Okay, we will now watch the episode. Okay, so we are watching Koyomimonogatari episode 6, Koyomi Tree. You can line your own copy up with this if you want to. We are starting in 3, 2, 1. This opening, I like this opening a lot. It feels like unique in a way compared to a lot of other openings. I don't really know why I have that vibe, but I just do for some reason. Something about it. Something about it. It's good. God, it really just puts me back in Nisei. It's been so long. It's been so long. I guess that's what happens when you watch one episode a week of a show with the 5 million episodes or whatever. Yeah, this might be one of my favorite openings. I feel like I've said that several times about so many openings that, like, if I actually tried to make a list, it would be impossible. But I love this one. I actually love this one. Okay. September now, right? Yes. That is a tree. That is a tree indeed. Oh, this music. We've heard this before. I don't remember where. It's a tree. Late September. That is indeed a tree. Indeed. What about it? Hmm. Oh. No one realized it until now. Interesting. As always. Thank you, Karen. Right. Right, right. What are you talking about? True. Although you do go, so. Right. God. Like, say something. She is just, like, trying to annoy him. Like, God. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. True, I guess. Right. Right. I see. True, yeah. Blessings are upon the head of the just. I don't think that's like what that means. Like I don't think that's a real connection there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Ooh, of course. Oh God, shut up. Uh-huh. I'm sure. Yeah. I literally, exactly. That's what he needs. That's what he deserves. Deserved. Yeah, like, out with it, Karen. Like, God. She's just so happy to have attention from him. Like, unnecessary, Karen, please. Is this entire episode just going to be her not telling us what she's talking about? Like, Literally. It's about a tree. Ooh, interesting. Everyone thinks the tree is a nuisance. No, that was not very clear at all. Like, what do you mean discovered? Okay. What do you mean discovered? Literally, yeah. It's a tree. You aren't being very clear. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a tree. A growing tree at that. I suppose. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Something unnoticed. Interesting. I mean, it's just something that kind of just wasn't a big deal, I guess, right? Interesting. Well, it's hard to like grapple with that, like something being so obvious that's right there, but you like don't notice it, I guess. Hmm. I assume it must not like be in the way or anything, or people would have noticed it like earlier, right? Scary. Hmm. It's just a tree. Yeah. Interesting. Because it's the surprise. It's the like all of that makes it like scary, right? It's, whoa. Stop saying things like that, please. Interesting. Yeah. Huh. They should chop it. They're blaming the tree instead of like themselves, their own perception, I guess, right? Very interesting. Sure. I don't know how no one noticed that tree, but right. Okay, okay. Hmm. Forever. Interesting. Oh, there's like so many connections I can make to this, I feel like. I'll do something. what what is Hanakawa gonna do about it? I yeah, isn't that normally how it works? Oh, this is post Tiger, right. Sure. Hanakawa loves trees. Oh, her room. Yeah, yeah, no one really like thought about it. Just something like blended into the background. Something that didn't, you know. Yeah, yeah. It becomes something that like bothers you, you know. Oh, yeah. What's that called again? There's like a specific name for that. Yeah. Ooh. Oh, like how Kaiki said. Um, Yeah, yeah. Hmm. You have to have something else replace it, right? That's what Kaiki said. Yeah. Or, well, hmm. Okay, okay. What do we do? Big? They go as far as they can. Okay, right, right, right. Because it was Kaiki said there had to be nothing there for like a rumor to spread, right? Okay. True. Right, right. Yeah, how would you change their perception of it, I guess, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Bring it up one more step. Reverence. Ah, okay. View the tree as like something special, I suppose, right? I see, I see. Okay, okay. Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. So they change it from something scary to something revered, and that's a step higher. That's interesting. Sure, but he wasn't one of the ones who wanted to cut it down anyway, right? Well, yeah, you guys just made it up, right? I mean, hmm. Okay. The old tree's life was spared, huh? Interesting. It could be true, sure. Yeah, or it's an oddity, I guess. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Like, I guess. I suppose. Yeah, yeah. But it's not impossible, I guess. Sure, yeah, because now people truly do believe something like that of it. Yeah, yeah. Watches over those who are training. Interesting. Which is kind of like what Aragi wanted, right? Like his fear in chapter one, his fear of Karen and like her stopping how she would react if she has to stop karate one day. If she has to stop karate one day, right? Hmm. Well, now there's a tree watching over her, just like Aragi himself in a way, right? I don't know. There's literally, I think, endless things you could say about this episode. Like I don't even want to. Oh God, man, so much stuff you could say about this episode. Oh God. Like think about it, right? Tree and Araragi stuff, right? Like the way you can relate the tree to Araragi himself, because like Araragi the tree, right? There's like stuff about like humanity and like Aragi's like view of humanity, all of that, right? The trees to me make me think of like branching paths, right? I mean, trees have branches, right? Trees make me think of branching paths and all of that, right? Which is so relevant to Aragi's whole thing about different paths in life and all of that, like it being like It makes me think about some stuff that Aragi's gone through, like, recently in the story. The whole, like, revelation that the tree is there, and once you've noticed it, it bothers you so much, right? It being almost like a tipping point, I guess, right? Oh god, there's so much. There's so much. Okay, well, we will talk about the episode in the discussion. Okay, let's talk about the episode. Man, so like I was saying there during the ending, there is, like, so much about this episode, I think. This one is crazy, actually, right? I guess I kind of had a feeling it would be when I saw that it was called Koyomi Tree, which is like a crazy title, frankly, right? God, what do I even want to talk about first? I kind of want to talk about the chapter one a little bit. Um, him thinking about so he thinks about Karen in this way of her having a set path in life and all of this, right? Like she does karate, and because her path in life is the path of karate, right? He's like envious of it in a way. He says he's not jealous. He says because it's his little sister, he averts his eyes awkwardly, which I think the reason he feels like that is because, like, of course, he has this whole thing about how because he's Karen's big brother, he has like this role he's meant to play as like the older person. You know, he's supposed to be someone that she should be able to look up to. He's supposed to be someone that that's all of these things for her. And I think like the fact that she's taller than him, the fact that she's stronger than him, all of these things, kind of representative of like that insecurity that he has, about that. Um, and in that sense too, it's like he's not only is he like jealous, envious, or like insecure, I guess, about all of that in relation to her. It's also this idea of like humanity, right? Like I love that he literally just says he would be like jealous of the humanity that she has, right? What's the exact line? It was I said I'd be jealous if it were anyone but my little sister, but by the same token, if it weren't my little sister, I might fall in love with that level of humanity. And yet the kind of life she lives always comes with a disclaimer, right? So he's equating her having her own path to go down and all of this, right, as like humanity, right? Which makes sense. I think it makes sense that he would equate it in that way. Um, the idea of like a set path to go down like that you don't have to worry about, because like from his perspective, I think he views other people as like things, other people and like decisions he could make and all of this, right? They're all like branching paths like a tree, right? They're all branching paths off of like the path of life that he thinks he should travel down, and anything that like could possibly stray him off of that path is like him losing his humanity, right? Like losing what makes him, what makes him Aragi Kiyomi, right? Um, so when he sees Karen having such a single strong thing to dedicate herself to, yeah, he views it as something admirable, right? And it's interesting because I think like in life that kind of is the point of things like karate, right? Like having something to like dedicate yourself to and like progress in and stuff like that, right? For me at least, from my perspective, that's kind of like the point of stuff like that, right? Is to give your life like meaning and purpose, right? Like I guess I just think that like humans just find meaning in that kind of thing, and yeah, that's the point, right? Now, he also talks about the darkness. He talks about the darkness being inevitable and in front of him and all of this. For one, I feel so justified and so like I'm just really happy to see him talk about it like this. Not because it's awful that he's thinking this kind of thing about the darkness. But I just remember back in Oni Monogatari in the ridiculous 2 hour long discussion, when I talked about the darkness and how it makes me think so much about like depression and like this inevitable like unhappiness basically that awaits you no matter what, right? That it's like for me, and I think for a lot of people, once you've experienced like depression and that kind of thing, right? It's really easy to fall into the idea that it's like it will never go away and that it's inevitable and this kind of thing, right? And it feels like Aragi is like that's like kind of what the darkness is for him, right? The darkness showed up one day, killed Hajikuji, ruined his life, right? Like not really, right? But you know what I mean. Um, it's representative of the rules of the universe, right? It is for him, it is this true inevitability that the thing in his life that like made him the happiest, maybe, which was his relationship with Hachikuji, in a sense, right? Was taken away from him because of that's just how the universe is. That's how the rules of the universe work, right? Um, so I think him saying that for Karen that there's no darkness ahead of her, that's very interesting, right? Why does he think that? Why does he think there's no darkness ahead of Karen in her life, right? Is it because of the path that she's on? Is it because the path that she is on is a straight line in his mind, that she has a set path that she won't deviate from, and the darkness only arrives when you've left that path, right? Like, does he think the darkness destroying Hajikuji was because he had strayed from the path that he should have been on, and it was like a punishment for him, right? We know that he thinks about that all the time, right? In Ski Monogatari, it was like the whole arc was him thinking about how he'd had to undergo divine punishment and all of this for everything he'd been doing for the past 6 months. So him saying that Karen, she won't have a darkness at all, him being jealous of the humanity that she has and all of this, right? Um, it makes a lot of sense. He thinks of her in a lot of ways as superior to him at being like a human, at being, all of these, justice and all of this, Uh yeah, yeah. It makes me think, of course, of like the conclusion to Karen B. The conversation that him and Karen had, that really long talk about like right and wrong and all that stuff that it took me like that was like one of the most stressful discussions ever. I remember trying to figure out what to even say about all of that because it felt so like dense. I don't know. Um, but when he had that whole talk to her, right? I remember a big part of that too was him like telling her that since he's her big brother, she should be able to leave it to him and all of this, And in that too, it's like it shows like that insecurity he feels about her, the way he views her. Yeah, yeah. The darkness isn't only ahead, it can also be inside. Makes you think of Ogi, right? Makes you think of Ogi. At least it makes me think of Ogi. The darkness being inside of you. If you stalled out on your path, what would you do? You find yourself in a pickle sooner or later. But Karen's unruffled, confident reply was simply, "You're wrong, big brother, because wherever I drop is the finish line. Getting to the point where can't go any further is the goal. To walk until you drop without ever stalling out. Because once you've stalled out, that's the end. That's where you're like, that's the goal, right? That is an interesting thing to say. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I don't think Karen's view of life and everything is like a perfect, like, admirable way you should view everything. So I can't help but feel like I just don't know. There's kind of like a dark implication behind what she says in a way. Like, there could be, right? The idea that, like, you're kind of like giving up almost, it feels like, right? I guess that's how Araki puts it, right? Karen just has a different attitude about it. But when she says that it's like wherever she drops just is the finish line, I guess my question is, okay, what do you do after the finish line then? Right? Like what do you like that can't just be the end. That can't just be the finish line, right? Because your life has to keep going, you know? So I don't know. It makes sense that Karen defines herself so much through karate, the same way like Aragi does the same thing about like so much of his life, right? About like himself and like his system of right and wrong and all of this, right? He's someone that really likes to define himself by those things. Karen does the same thing with karate, and maybe even more so. Maybe not more so. Maybe it's just unlike Aragi has had what he views as himself challenged over the course of the story, right? Through the process of him changing and all of this. Karen, I suppose, hasn't as much. The only time that like her sense of justice and everything was challenged in some way was in Karen B, right? When she was unable to defeat Kaiki by herself, I suppose. But it's not like karate's been challenged. It's not like her path in life has been challenged in the same way. So I guess I just wonder how she would react to that. Because it almost feels like these words that she's saying here at the end, her answer, her response to Araragi, it just feels like a response that she can only say because she hasn't faced the same things that Araragi has faced, this like challenge to the path that he's on or that she is on. Because it can't just be the finish line. There's I just reject that, right? Like if the dojo that she practices karate at blew up tomorrow, how like how would like to much more. How would she react to that? What does she mean by it's the finish line? She would give up on karate forever. She would have to find a new path, right? She would be in the same place that like Aragi is in a way, struggling in the darkness to try and find the path that she should be on. And I guess that's Aragi's point too, right? Karen's path is so bright right now, the dazzling sun is shining on it or whatever. Um, but that just means that her path is so clearly illuminated to her. That means nothing of whether or not where it is leading you is good or not, right? And I guess that's Aragi's entire thing. That's Aragi's whole thing, right? Wondering whether or not the decisions he's making are leading him on the right path, right? Like, I think he thinks about how happy he has been over the course of the story ever since, like, ever since, like, Nisei, right? Like, Nisei felt like the time when Aragi was, like, the happiest, right? He had all these characters around him, all of this stuff. It felt so different than, like, I remember, like, the whiplash, or how different it felt, going from Kizu, which is such a sad, lonely, it was just so lonely and depressing for Aragi, right? There were no characters around, really. It was four characters: him, Oshino, Hanakawa, Shinobu, and the only person he really had a relationship with was, like, Hanakawa, and that's it, right? And we go into Nisei, where in the first episode of Nisei, it's like Aragi goes and hangs out with all his pals, like, like, all this crazy stuff happens. Um, I think he thinks back on all of that, about how happy he was during all of that time period, during Nisei, and up until, like, Hajikuji disappears, probably. And he thinks of that as it being, like, the path ahead of him, being, like, bright and being dazzling and all of this, right? He feels happy. He feels like he's going down the right path. But what did it lead him to? What is it leading him to? Right now, it's led to Hajikuji being destroyed in his mind, right? Like, certainly, if he had never formed a connection with Hajikuji at all, he wouldn't have to worry about that having happened, right? He wouldn't have known Hajikuji, so it wouldn't have mattered. And then it just makes him think further down on the path, right? Where's it leading him, right? Um, which is, like, another thing that is, like, probably Ogi adjacent, I imagine, right? Like, Araragi's, like, insecurity and unsureness of the path that his life is leading him down is definitely, that has to be part of Ogi, right? Because it's like, if the darkness is the enforcer of, like, the rules and all of this, right? That is keeping you on a path in some way, right? Because the darkness destroys you if you stray off that path in Araragi's mind, right? Then Ogi, I guess, is like the enforcer of the path that Aragi thinks he should be on, I guess, right? Like, if Ogi's actions are, what did she say, even, like, punishing liars and all of this, like, she's fulfilling the same function as the darkness, just from, like, an Aragi perspective almost, right? Um, then yeah, it's like she is that thing. She is, like, what Aragi would want, I guess, to force him on the path that he imagines he should be on, right? To avoid the real darkness, I suppose, right? Interesting. Okay, let's actually talk about the episode. So we got a tree. We have a tree, which is like Aragi. Aragi's a tree. What happens with the tree? Well, it's a bunch of branching paths, right? Makes me think of that. It makes me think of uh there's what happens with the tree in this episode is people notice it. People suddenly notice the tree, and then it feels spooky. It seems scary. It seems unsettling, right? I guess, like, the circumstances behind it are the tree was just slowly growing in the dojo, right? Or back in this training area outside the dojo, I guess. And one day people noticed it, right? Like, there's a point where, when a random tree is growing, you're going to notice it someday, right? Um, it would be really easy, honestly, to, like, not notice it, to not think about it, to not notice it, to just not care about it, right? I've had, like, I think everyone has had moments like that, where it's like a familiar space that you're in, and you suddenly notice something new, and you're like, how did I never notice that before, right? That's what this tree is like, right? Um, what does that as, like, a concept make me think of? It makes me think of Araragi. It makes me think of Araragi in Ski Monogatari, when he looks in the mirror and he notices he can't see himself anymore, right? How the process that led Araragi to looking in the mirror and not being able to see himself anymore was a slow and gradual process of change over the course of the story. He changed as a person ever since, like, Kizu, right? He was slowly changing, um, allowing himself to be changed, I suppose, from his perspective. And it's not like it's not like that moment in Ski Monogatari when he looks in the mirror represented some sudden specific change in himself, in the tree, right? It's not like the moment everyone realized this tree was here was the moment when it suddenly sprouted out of the ground and it was here now, right? No, it was slowly growing the whole time, right? I guess it just makes me think of that. It just makes me think of Araragi and like grappling with that change within himself, right? Um, and a very important part to it too is how this ends with us protecting the tree, how the tree is still here, right? Because again, it's like if the tree is Araragi in some way, right? Because that's like in his name and everything. It feels like such a hopeful idea that the tree is still there. That like it makes me think like humanity, right? Like wanting to maintain the tree, wanting to maintain your humanity in some way, I suppose, right? Not in like a weird Aragi sense, not in like the sense of like himself unaffected by others, but a sense of himself, right? The idea that he is still Aragi despite everyone, everyone changing him, despite being changed, all of this, the fact that it's like the real problem, the problem in this episode is other people's perception of the tree, right? Is other people's perception of like whatever you want to say the tree represents for Aragi, I guess you could say. Like his humanity, I suppose you could say. Um, because that's Aragi's thing, right? Is like he's worried how other people will affect himself and his humanity, right? He would worry about other people cutting down the tree, cutting down himself, right? And they managed to not do that. They save the tree, right? Which is good, and it's not through like a rejection of all of those other people. It's not from like getting all those people to quit the dojo, quit the karate club, so that they don't cut down the tree, right? It's they feel this sense of reverence towards it, which I don't know what that means. We'll talk about that. I don't know what that means. I don't really know how to connect that to like this like analysis I'm doing about saying it's representative of like Aragi in some way, but I don't know. I'm sure we'll think of something. Nobody realized this tree has been here until now. What else could it be, right? It just makes me think of like a part of yourself that you haven't realized, right? That you haven't noticed, right? That you realize something about yourself and that you feel like scared or unsure about it, right? Which again, I mean, all that makes me think about is Aragi and like his change over the story, right? There's all of these aspects of himself that he has changed, that he has noticed have changed, that all led to the culmination of Schema Monogatari, right? Um, so it's probably a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like so many things that you imagine that it's just one day you realize, oh, I'm different now, right? And then you're unsettled by it, I suppose, right? I don't know what's up with all the boobs in this episode. I I don't know what to say about all that. I don't know. Normally, right? Normally, my the way I analyze like all of the weird stuff in this anime is like through the lens of like, oh, Aragi's like the way Aragi reacts to characters in situations like this says a lot about like his like emotional feelings towards them, right? So I guess you could say him just treating Karen like a nuisance right now. I mean, what does that mean? What does that say about him? Does it say something about like that feeling of like jealousy or unsureness around her, right? Maybe you could say that, right? I suppose. But it feels like he doesn't act like that towards her like that often, right? So I don't know what would have happened around this point in the story for him to feel like that right now, right? This is in September. This is after all the horrible things in August happened. Hachikuji disappeared. Um, whatever else, right? He said at the end of Oni Monogatari that what happened after Hachikuji disappeared was even worse. But we haven't seen that yet. Um, so I don't know. I wonder what that says about how he feels about Karen right now. Because what's interesting is this isn't that far after. Like this episode isn't that far after like the toothbrush episode, right? Where that was the peak of his feelings about Karen, right? This is like a month later. I guess like 2 months later, close, right? Because that was near the start of August. This is into September. So I guess it's been a little bit, but I don't know. I wonder. Why is Karen acting like this? She's Karen. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. She wants attention, I guess, right? Like that's really it, right? I mean, I guess it's just like the way she was acting towards him in the toothbrush episode, right? This feels like a repeat of that, right? She's literally here again, bothering him at his desk while he's trying to study. And she's just acting like this. And I guess it worked out great for her last time in the toothbrush episode because he ended up agreeing to what she wanted, right, to introduce her to Conbrew. So I guess he has taught her that this is how she gets what she wants from him. As they say, blessings are upon the head of the just. That was just boobs being upon the head of my big brother. what are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, thank you. God, she really, like, half of this episode is just her not telling us what she wants. I do like this when he says, Karen Sean, people can't help other people. People just help themselves out on their own. I think it makes sense that he would be like, this is kind of like depressed, sad Araragi, because this is after Hachikuji's disappearance, this is after so many sad, bad things have happened to him. That him kind of retreating back to this defense, this idea that people only help themselves on their own, blah, 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 I can't help you, you know. But thank God that she beats some sense into him. Yeah, incomprehensible nonsense, literally. Come on. I mean, it's not incomprehensible. If you actually take that saying for what it's supposed to mean, right? Like, people can only save themselves. People have to be willing to be saved, right? Like, if someone isn't willing to be saved, then yeah, they can't be saved. So in that sense, you can only save yourself. You have to play your part in it, right? That doesn't mean people can't help each other, though, right? Like, Karen, what is wrong with you? So she tells us about the tree. A tree was discovered on the dojo grounds, and everyone thinks it's a nuisance. She does a really bad job at explaining it. She just keeps saying that it was discovered, right? It's such an interesting way to put it, because I guess it's hard to imagine it, I suppose, right? I can imagine it being hard to imagine. A tree just you not noticing it is there, right? And I can imagine like my perspective from like the kids at the dojo thinking that it's like thinking that it's creepy, thinking that it's weird, right? Because it makes you doubt like your own senses. It makes you doubt your own, yeah, you know, your own perception of things. I suppose, right? That there was a tree here this whole time and you just didn't notice it. Well, that that can't be right. I would have noticed the tree, you know. But there's so many things like that. I think, right? Where it's just, I mean, before anyone pointed it out, it was just a tree, right? Like it didn't, like no one there was no reason for your brain to perceive it or think about it or care about it at all, right? Yeah, yeah. Hmm. It is just a tree. So, um, God, there's a line in here. She only hears the good parts. There's a line here I wanted to talk about. I think it's in like a second. A growing tree, a tree with roots. Absolutely. A tree's growing in the backyard of the dojo you go to, and you hadn't noticed until now. There's a tree growing there. Oh yeah, it's this. What she says in a second here. What she says about how her perception of the tree is so different than everyone else's, right? Like she. Here, let's keep going. We'll get to it. I was the one who found it the other day. It was a huge deal. Nobody had realized it was there. Yeah, did someone bring it out here in the middle of the night? People started saying things like that. It was a total confusion. It's a scary story. A tree you never noticed before. It's growing in the garden you normally use for training and stuff. Everyone says it's scary. Scary or spooky. And another thing, obviously another thing that the tree makes me think about, just real quick, is Ogi again, right? Like, it makes me think about like when Ogi first appeared in the story, right? Like in Kabuki Monogatari in the first episode, when there's just random like here's this new character that you know nothing about, who's best friends with Araragi, right? Um, how that feels like unsettling, that feels scary, that feels like unnerving, right? How just suddenly there's this new character here, right? But it's kind of really analogous to the tree in a way because I guess once this show has given us more information to the point where like we now like understand more of Ogi being like a part of Aragi in a way that makes you think of it in the same way, right? That Ogi was always there, right? Ogi was there already, right? This part of Aragi always existed, you know. So why is it so unnerving? Why is it so unsettling for like us and probably for Aragi too in a way, right? His attitude towards her is weird, right? Like other characters, we see that they think of Ogi as like the weird, creepy thing that she is, right? Like Hanakawa asking Kaiki about it, Shinobu trying to talk to Aragi about it. Um like Nadeko, the way she, Ogi's weird, Ogi looks creepy, right? All of this, you know. But here's Aragi who like he like doesn't think about it like that. He's just like friends with Ogi, right? In a way, he talks to her about stuff. He just kind of like brushed off Shinobu when she tried to talk to him about Ogi. Um, all of those things, right? It's interesting. It's very interesting because I guess if she is just a part of if she is just a part of Aragi, then yeah, it's like, of course she was there the whole time. Why would Aragi be scared of her? I suppose, right? It's like us, the viewer, that it's like this new weird thing, you know? Yeah, yeah. It's more embarrassing that as a martial artist, I hadn't noticed it until now that the tree was there this whole time. I was so embarrassed I thought about killing myself. Karen, you gotta stop talking about killing yourself. Like this is like the second time this has come up. That was also in the toothbrush episode, wasn't it? This is just the second toothbrush episode. Um, I hoped everyone else would share the same mindset, but that wasn't the case. This, I think, is an interesting thing for her to say. Like that her perception of the tree is different than everyone else's. That she blames herself for it rather than blaming like the tree, right? I think that is such a like Araragi thing to do, right? Runs in the family, right? The way Araragi thinks that there's this set of like rules in the universe that he must follow, and if he breaks them, he blames himself, right? He thinks it's a him problem in some way, right? Karen's kind of doing the same thing. Everyone else has this idea of like, oh, the tree must be what's at fault, right? But no, for Karen, she blames herself. She thinks of herself as being the one at fault in this situation, right? They didn't all have the same mindset as viewing the tree as like this objective thing that's just there and we shouldn't like do anything to it, that it's your own fault, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just the whole system of like justice and stuff that they both feel, that they both share. Saying it's too scary, so they should chop the tree down. God, and relating this to Ogi, if I think about the tree as like being Ogi too, this is so interesting, right? Saying that they should chop the tree down because it's scary. Is that true? Is that what we should do to Ogi? Should we chop Ogi down? Is that the answer? I don't know, right? I don't know. Like, Ogi seems like a bad influence on Aragi, right? Like, certainly. It is certainly not a good thing that Aragi is like has this manifestation of like Ogi and all of this. But I guess like the question is it like is Ogi like a villain? Is Ogi evil? I don't think so, right? Because that's almost like saying that like I don't think Aragi's like system of justice and all of that is like evil, right? It's just it's not objectively correct in all of these things. And I guess if Ogi is going around enforcing it and harming other people in that way, that's bad, right? But I don't know, saying that we should chop the tree down, right? If it is Ogi in that sense, then that's I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think the answer should be to go like kill Ogi, right? Like I don't know, right? I don't know. I guess what would be like the good ending? What would be the good ending for Aragi? I guess he needs to. Because like if Ogi is an aberration, like Ogi's like an Aragi aberration, right? It's like she's like formed from like his thoughts and feelings and all of that, right? Then you would think that his thoughts and feelings changing about stuff would be able to change like Ogi, right? Like it would be him who has such a strong perception of her that he would be able to change her, right? Kind of like what Oshino was saying in God, what? I don't remember what episode that was. Nekomonogatari Kuro, I think, right? When they were talking about Shinobu and the way she's changed as like a vampire and all of this. Kind of like that, but with like Ogi, right? It's like I guess the good ending would be Ogi just not being that bad anymore, I guess, right? Like not being evil, I suppose, right? Because of like the way like Aragi changing his perception of her. Because like right now he views Ogi as something that he wants to enforce all of these rules almost like on himself, right? So if he changes that perception of it, right? Um, and views it in a different way, like they do at the end of this episode with the tree, right? Instead of viewing it as scary and spooky anymore, they view it with reverence, which I don't know if that's how you should deal with Ogi, but it's that change in perception of it that changes the way the tree is, right? Changes the way everyone views it, right? I think that would be the answer for Ogi, right? That would be what we need to do. Is make it so Aragi doesn't want to be punished by Ogi anymore, doesn't want to be destroyed by her, right? Yeah, that would be how to handle it, right? Due to our lack of attention, we didn't notice this until now, but now that we know it's here, saying that this tree is spooky and cutting it down is rather preposterous, isn't it? Indeed, indeed. Want me to resolve things so the tree doesn't get chopped down? He doesn't at all. Hanakawa comes up with the plan, but can stay forever. Which, like, again, it's like I agree with that. I guess, right? It's like if this tree represents Aragi, represents some part of himself that is shared with like Ogi and all of that, represents that humanity, all of that stuff. You don't need to cut all of that down. It doesn't need to go away for him to change, for him to like be a changed person. You know what I mean? I think that would be like an unhealthy way to view it, right? Yeah, yeah. I'll do something. Hanakawa, please do something. This is like a Tatami Galaxy reference right here. All of the I don't want to. I guess I won't spoil it in case people haven't seen that show. But I'm telling you, this rock climbing wall, it's a Tatami Galaxy reference. I love seeing Hanakawa with the tiger hair and the she's in her room, right? This is her room from the end of Tsubasa Tiger. Like she's here, she has it. Ah, I love it so much. Oh God, I should read what she's saying. First off, I'd like to hear your opinion about the case. Who do you agree with, Karen-chan or those around her? Karen-chan, of course. If the tree's still alive, it's inconceivable to dispose of it without sufficient cause. Interesting. Makes sense, I suppose. Like I'm trying to think about how like the way she views Araragi and all of this, because Hanakawa was someone who was so like important for Araragi, like changing. Like she's the catalyst for him to have begun changing at all, right? I don't know. It's interesting that she also wants to save the tree, I suppose. Yeah, it's her room, right? And I guess she's like planning out her trip and stuff. She has two giant maps, like God. She needs a bed, girl. Where's like your I guess normally they like might just have a futon like in the thing. She just pulls it out, right? Yeah. Nobody noticed the tree until now. Isn't a matter of whether or not they noticed it. It's just that nobody was conscious of it being there until now. Yeah, yeah. Once you're conscious of it, you become really conscious of it. Like when you learn a new word and you see that word ridiculously often in whatever prose you read afterwards. Yeah, what's that called again? There's like a specific name for that. But like everyone has experienced that, right? Where you like learn a new word for once and then suddenly you see it everywhere constantly forever. Um, there's a certain word for it, right? But it's like the same thing. It's not like the word is literally everywhere more often. It's just you aren't consciously thinking about and looking for that word, right? So before that moment, I mean, and then once you have learned it, once you know what that word means and all of this, right? You notice it more often, because there's words all the time probably that like you haven't bothered like looking up to like know what they mean, right? But you don't go through the effort of like looking up to like if you've read it and you just didn't know what it meant before. But once you actually do that and you know what the word means, now you will notice it way more often. I wish I remembered what that was called. There's a name for that like phenomena. The dojo is undergoing a pandemic. So we bring up the pandemic again, like what Kaiki was talking about, which I forget how he put it exactly. He said there's no wind in a pandemic, right? Um, that it's not wind that carries rumors, but it's like a vacuum. It's like a void, right? It's like the darkness, right? It's like a space for something to fit into, right? And I don't remember how he related that to a pandemic exactly. But I guess the pandemic is the thing that spreads into those vacuums, into those voids, right? Yeah, yeah. All we need to do is end it. Can't really curb a pandemic. So the way we stop it is we change our perception of it. We change our thinking of the tree, right? We can't stop people noticing the tree and thinking about the tree. But it's protected because we change the feeling of it as being spooky or scary into reverence. Yeah, yeah. And I like that too because it makes me think of like kind of like the first chapter of this episode when Aragi was thinking about like Karen and like her ending karate one day and all of this, right? Well, now she has this tree guardian there, right? It's almost like he himself watching over her in a way, right? Like those insecurities that he feels about that. I don't know. It's good. It's good. Can't let it go that far because this pandemic is headed to the ending where they dispose of that old tree. Yeah, yeah. But we shouldn't. We should not dispose of the tree, certainly. You should never dispose of the tree, right? You know what I mean? Bring it up one more step. Now, I don't know what that means. Is it true that reverence is a step above, um, like viewing something as spooky or scary? I guess. I don't know. That is a weird way to think about it, I suppose. Like, how is reverence? I suppose there's a level of like fear in reverence, maybe, right? But I guess I can imagine how you view it as a level beyond, right? Because it's like fear and like being scared of something, I guess, is kind of like like a what they're afraid of about the tree is like this fear of the unknown, right? Like they don't know what it is. I mean, it's just a tree. But they think it's like something scary because of that, right? So they come up with an explanation. They explain it, right? So the fear is gone, and all that's left, I suppose, is the reference, right? That kind of makes sense to me. Reference, I think. A new goal. Make that, yeah, we need to bring it up one more step. Make that a new goal to reach for. What is Aragi's new goal, right? I guess that's kind of what he wants. That's what he wants in life. He wants a goal in life so badly, right? Like that's kind of the whole thing that like the path leads him down, you know. And it's interesting, right? Because it's like he defines himself so much as a high schooler and all of this, right? And I guess that's the interesting thing is that's kind of like the point of like a lot of stuff about him is it feels like all of this is happening to him in his final year of high school because this is kind of the tipping point, right? He's seeing the end of that road. He's seeing the end of the road of being a high schooler, and he has to decide like what he's gonna do with the rest of his life now, right? He does need a new goal, right? Yeah, yeah. The old tree was the same tree used to build the sacred dojo and was planted in the backyard as the guardian deity of the dojo. Like this too, this too is so interesting to me because it's like the old tree. If you view the old tree as being part of like Araragi and like an old part of him, like the same part of him that's like representative of Ogi and all of this, right? Um, then yeah, it's like that old tree, that old himself, right, is what has led to building who he is now, right? Um, so yeah, you should protect it like for that meaning, for that purpose, right? Like that makes sense to me. Hmm. And that's why such an unnatural phenomenon occurred. The god of martial arts that had watched over the dojo students for dozens of years, keeping its presence a secret, finally used all of its power to reveal itself. How preposterous to even think about chopping it down. Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you, Hanakawa. Because it fits like with what Hanakawa said too, right? About how like there's no moment where you aren't yourself, right? How Hanakawa was always herself. I like the conclusion to Tsubasa Tiger, right? It's like if there's these old versions of herself that Hanakawa had, right? She doesn't want to kill her old self, right? Because she's different now, because she's changed as a person now. No, those were always her too. The tree has always been Aragi, you know, like how this tree that was like part of the dojo in some way or whatever, right? It's like a continuation, you know. It's a growth and change, but it's still you, you know. Yeah, yeah. When you think about it, that old tree couldn't have been used as lumber to create the dojo. Yeah, not literally, I guess, right? But it's not impossible, I guess. It's not, I suppose it's not impossible. Possible the tree really was. Yeah, and it's possible that now it actually is an oddity for sure, right? Because of the way people like view it, right? Because we came up with this interpretation that tree may have became an actual oddity, right? Yeah, yeah. Hmm. The kind of apparition that watches over those who are training. Interesting. A better one than Ogi, for sure, right? But similar, I think, nonetheless. Okay, this might have been my new favorite one of Koyomimonogatari. I think it probably is. This was a really good one. I really enjoyed this one. Koyomimonogatari episode tier list. That's too hard. That's too hard. This one and Sand, I think, are my two favorites so far, though, for sure. We're halfway. We're halfway through them. Crazy, right? I guess that's what happens. We're watching two a week. Because God, this arc would take what 3 months otherwise, right? So no, I'm glad I'm doing more than one a week. I think it would be kind of, it would really be dragging it out if I was only doing one of these a week, right? So I don't know. Anyway, that was a good episode. Um, anything else I want to talk about? I don't really think so. I think I covered everything, I guess. I mean, there is endless stuff in this episode, I think, right? Like, just the name Kiyomi Tree feels like it has. Man, I knew I was in for a good one when I read that, right? Okay, I suppose that is it. So, if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next one.